So good afternoon. My name's Caleb Funk, and I'm one of the services team managers with IMAGINiT Technologies. So I've been with IMAGINiT for about 18 years now. It'll be 18 years in May. And I started out working in the way back days teaching AutoCAD classes. I spent a lot of time working with different tools as we've come along, the 3D tools and, of course, the data management tools. And we do these webcasts pretty regularly, and we were looking for a topic and looking for something to share. And one of the ideas we came across is as we talk to customers and as we go through different times of meeting with customers, looking at different situations, we hear a lot of the same things. And as people tell us different ideas they've heard of either about data management or things they've heard from other people or just kind of a general feel there is around it. And we started realizing there were some common things we were running into. And that's kind of where we came up with this idea of just some common data management myths, just kind of urban legends that have come up around it and that we've seen. And I want to kind of walk through some of those and, talk about part of it, an urban legend usually has some basis in reality. So I want to talk about why this appears, where this comes from, but ultimately why it is an urban legend or a myth because of what data management can do. So before we get too far into that, just real quick, I want to introduce or reintroduce you to IMAGINiT. So IMAGINiT is a RAND worldwide company. So we're one of the divisions of RAND, and what we focus on are Autodesk products. We've got several other things as well, scanning solutions, professional services, training, other tools that are part of that, but largely what we look at is Autodesk, and that's kind of the focus that I'll be coming from today is Autodesk products, particularly with the data management. We do have some sister companies, other divisions, RAND 3D, a big provider of Dassault software solutions and Dassault and PTC training, and then Ascent, and if you've ever taken an IMAGINiT, a class, an AutoCAD class in the last probably 10 years, you've probably used an Ascent book. And they provide professional training materials, Autodesk, PTC, and Dassault. And kind of just talking about a little bit about who IMAGINiT is and what we provide, it's really a couple of different areas that we're looking at this. And we're looking at technology solutions. One of the first things we try and do is discover, figure out what's the best fit, optimize that through professional services, and then fully support your productivity through training and then through our support as well. And then a lot of times out of that cycle continues as we work with you and partner with you in uncovering new ways, new things we can do, new things we can optimize, and then we continue to support that throughout. That's a big reason, that's a big part of what IMAGINiT does, and that's part of the reason I have a job. I'm on the services team, and that's exactly what we do is we participate in each one of those areas. I spend a lot of my time in the discovery phase, talking with customers, figuring out what makes sense, if a technology makes sense, or if it's best to wait for something else. And then I have a team that goes out and does a lot of the professional services to optimize that, as well as the training and support that follows up with that. So that kind of gives you a big, broad overview of who IMAGINiT is and what we do. And with that being done, I want to take a look at, one other thing, just some quick fast facts on IMAGINiT. These are just some quick pieces. I really like this slide because it tells a little bit of who we are rather than just, hey, we sell Autodesk products. Throughout North America, so Canada and U.S., we've got 40 locations, 350-plus employees, lots of satisfied customers. We are the largest Autodesk software systems integrator in North America. What that means is we work with a lot of customers on a lot of software. And that and the number of technical experts we have is particularly important if you are looking at a tool like data management, like the Vault tools and the different pieces we have. Those are particularly important because we've got the wealth of knowledge necessary to correctly put that into place and then support you overall with that, and even extend the software with our software developers, and then training, that idea of the productivity, training, support, all of those pieces are in place. So I picked these 5 myths surrounding data management, and these are things that I've heard. These are companies I've talked to, people I've worked with. As we go in and we take a look at it, these are kind of common refrains. So number 1, we don't need it if we're only doing 2D. It's only needed for 3D design. Number 2, small companies won't really benefit from it. If you're a small company, there's no real need for data management. You know, it's small enough we can just use what is available to us with Windows and with servers. Data management isn't necessary. Number 3, it's only for managing CAD files. And that's a common one I hear, like, well, it'd be great, but we've got a lot of other types of things to worry about. And I want to talk about that a little bit and show a couple of things that are really useful with that. And then the final 2, and these are really common, it takes way too long to put into place. I hear these implementations go on forever, and it costs too much money. So I want to kind of address each one of these, and we'll look at this from kind of a functionality perspective first. And that's kind of the first piece that we'll look at, you know, how it works with 2D, you know, how it benefits small companies and things. And then we'll talk about the implementation portion and some of what that looks like and where that comes in. So the first one, it's only needed for 2D design. It's only needed for 3D design. And of course, 2D design, super common throughout manufacturing. It's, you know, AutoCAD is still, the DWG file is still the default language of engineering almost. It's so common that people say, well, just give me a DWG, you know, we'll take that, we'll work with it from there. So a lot of 2D users don't believe, they believe these tools are not necessary. They say, well, we don't really need the 3D tools because we're just 2D. And I've heard that exact phrase in talking with customers, well, we're just 2D, you know, we don't need that. And so part of where this comes from is there is a lot of complexity in 3D design. And that, in the complexity of the relationships and how those pieces go together, that has kind of forced some people's hands. They moved to 3D design, realized there was this large level of complexity, and that's what was finally the tipping point for moving over to working with a data management tool. Up till then, they said, hey, we're getting by just fine. We've got a Windows server. We've got a file system set up the way we want. We can find it. So the idea arose that we really only had to move to 3D, or excuse me, only move to data management when we started using 3D. And that's often the case, right? That 3D is complex, and we do need to have that there. There's definite benefit for that. But for your average 2D user, some of the benefits of data management are going to be searching for files, file access logging, knowing who had a file and when they had it, the idea of revision control, and then managing the XREFs. So even though a lot of times we think of 2D as a simpler file format, and you know, we don't have all these connections and all those things, there's still the idea of XREFs that are in there and how those come together. And the 2D files, one 2D file type in particular that can benefit from data management is AutoCAD Electrical. Vault Access is integrated for AutoCAD Electrical right into the project browser, and it allows for this collaborative design on large projects and that access history log. So I just want to show real quick. I'm going to jump over to my Vault, and I'm going to pull up some just 2D files, and I just want to talk to a couple of pieces of this, of where the benefits come in working with 2D. So give me just a second. I'm going to grab my Vault. So here I've got Autodesk Vault. I've got this set up, and this is just live software. I'm just working with it right now. And I've got a few of these files in place that I can go and take a look at. Vault, by the way, if you haven't seen it before, it looks a lot like a Windows file server. I'm able to go look for this information. I'm able to find it easily, look through the different pieces that I have here. But one thing I want to point out is I can pretty easily take a look at a file and say, where is this file used? So I mentioned the idea of XREFs, having that benefit of understanding where an XREF is being used. That's built right into what I have here. So I can see that these files are being ultimately consumed by this one, and I can even go the other way and see that that one uses the other two. I can see what XREFs are attached to that. And that's not something I can do with a normal Windows server, or is understand what XREFs are where, how they're attached, what the information is with that. With the Vault database, I can go find that information. And the database is a really key part of this as well, because not only do I just have the files, but one of the big pieces that I can do for this is I can go search very quickly. So it happens a lot of times when you're working with files and you're working with information, you know, people will say, you know I did the drawing for that customer about a week ago or a month ago or a year ago. I'm always impressed when people will literally remember something they drew 5 years ago, but they're not quite sure where it is or what it was called, but they know they created one. But they may not know the file name, but they know some things about it. For instance, I know I created a drawing for a customer called Caleb Co. And I'm just going to do a quick search here and find every file that Caleb Co. is attached to. And the way that I'm doing that is that these drawings, I've already filled in the customer information for these drawings. I've got a project information in for these drawings. So that search I did didn't look through the file names for that. It's looking through all of this extended information for that. It's going out and looking at those extended properties for that information. So the idea that 2D, oh, it's simple enough, we don't need it, everybody needs to search for files. And a lot of times the file name is not the thing we're searching on. Windows restricts us to that. We can really only search for the file name. In this case, I can search for a customer name, I can search for a project name, I can even search for when it was created, who created it, all of the information about that, as well as the file name is easily searchable. So to me, that's a big benefit of using a tool like Vault to search for this information. So where did this information come from? We can extract it right from the title block. So it can take everything you enter into that title block, extract it out, and make it a searchable item within Vault so that we can easily go find that and be able to pull that up to review later. So it's definitely a myth that it's only needed for 3D design. 2D users can gain a lot of benefit, particularly with the search tools and the ability to understand how those XREFs go back and forth with each other. Some things that I'm not getting into would be revision control and lifecycle states, but there's a lot of tools that 2D users can benefit from. So another one, and this is really common, you know what, we're just a small company, we've got 4 designers, we don't really need Vault. I don't think we're going to benefit from this. And so my definition of small would be 5 or fewer designers, because that's probably where I hear this the most commonly is, we're pretty small, I don't think we're going to benefit from this. Well, realistically, company size doesn't drive data management challenges. Data complexity is what drives it. Large and small companies are going to experience similar challenges of locating files, managing links between them, controlling access, revision control, all of those kind of standard data management things that come in, those are really, really common. And what we see a lot when we're looking at product data is it gets really complex really quickly. So it doesn't matter whether I've got a large team or a small team. When we get into something where we've got assemblies, sub-assemblies, parts off the sub-assemblies, drawings from all of the sub-assemblies, and all of this different information coming through, as well as having to deal with specs, marketing, all of these pieces going together, that level of complexity really does drive a need for data management. So 2D can have a need, but 3D definitely does, because I can go view all of this extended information, understand the relationships between those, and let Vault control the relationships for me. Even in a small team, if you have these complex assemblies, you're dealing with a lot of relationship managing on a Windows file server. Here, we can come in and deal with it in a much easier format within the Vault. Real quick, again, I'm going to just pop my Vault back up here, and I've got a little just quick test station I was playing with, just some files. I just wanted to show I've got a simple assembly here. And this assembly, as I go through, is made up of all of these pieces. And Vault understands how all of these relate to each other, how all of them fit together. If I take a look at that one, it's made up of those components and those components, which is another subassembly, which is made up of these components. This is really common. I mean, I've got a master assembly, subassemblies, and subassemblies in the subassemblies. So even a small team can have these complex levels of this fitting together that can be difficult to comprehend. It can be difficult to understand where you are in the cycle in terms of, how far along are we? Is it released? Is it still work in progress? And it can be difficult to understand, if I change this one, what does it affect and where does, what other pieces are affected by that. Vault gives us the insight into that so we can see all of these different pieces and understand where that information is. I'm talking about Vault generally here. What I'm really looking at here are tools with Vault Basic. If I go further, you notice I've got drawings that have revisions on them. I've got life cycle states on drawings. Once I get to something like Vault Workgroup or Vault Professional, and which one you need really depends on what your environment is and how you're working with it, but each of these has different tools that allow us to work with this. So in this case, I have an actually released drawing. It's locked down. No one else can change it, and I can hold it to that. So the idea of being able to introduce a true release process, to be able to validate your revision process, and be able to understand the links between files and quickly understand how it all fits together, this becomes very important, really regardless of the size of the company. It's the complexity of the drawings and the complexity of the process that are going to drive that more than just number of employees. So the idea that Vault is really just for large companies, and I can see where that myth comes from as well. If you look at it, it's necessary. It is nearly impossible to manage that much data in a large company without some sort of specific data management tool. While a smaller company can say, well, you know what, we don't have as much data, and yep, we're definitely spending some time figuring out where these links are, or spending some time figuring out design, the impact of a design change. It can be done. Now, just because it can be done doesn't mean there's not a better way to do it. And so data management definitely benefits any type of complexity you get into with your drawings, regardless of company size. So we talked about the idea of 2D users. There's definite benefits there with the searching and being able to understand how the XREFs go together. 2D files, by the way, as well, can be released, can have life cycles and all of that on them. When we get into 3D files, we see all these complex relationships and how they fit together and all this information. So it makes sense. Engineering files we can look at and we can say, okay, there's definitely something to be said for using it for engineering files. But then I'll hear a lot of times, there we go, that, oh, it's only for CAD files. So we've got a lot of different files that are associated to this, and we've got for a data management tool, there's a lot of different things that we are going to put in place, but what we're really looking at here is just CAD files, and I don't want to have a data management tool that separates this. Well, this is definitely an easy one. Data management, any file type can be placed into Vault or pretty much any data management tool. So it's definitely not for just managing CAD files. We can put just about any file type into there. And any file type, it doesn't matter if it's a TIFF file, a Word document, Excel, PDF, the benefits of storing that in a single location, managing the access. So with Vault, you have to log in, you have to have a password. We're locking that away. So we're managing access to that. We have an access history of it. Who got this file? When did they get it? And if we want to, we can apply revision control or change management tools to Word docs, to PDF files, to all of that information. So it's just simply not true that it's just for CAD files. Any file type can be placed into Vault and can be managed with the Vault tools. So this becomes a really powerful tool when we start combining all of that different information together. As a matter of fact, this is so common, the idea of working with these different file types and working with those, that within Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and I think that Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, I had to think, oh, Outlook has it as well. I actually have a Vault add-in. It's a tool that's specifically for that allows me to access Vault directly from the Office document. So I can take the Office document, log into Vault, check out a particular file so that I have access to it, no one else can change it, and then check it back in. Matter of fact, I've got Microsoft Word up here, and I just wanted to point this out. This is something that I think does get missed sometimes, but within here, here's Autodesk Vault, and I can log into my Autodesk Vault. And this is that access that I was talking about. I have to have a username and a password to log into my Vault. I'll go ahead and log in. And instead of just using my normal open command that I would use from just file open, so I could open it from a server, I'm going to open from Vault. So I'll go in here, and I've got a series of folders. By the way, I can search, I can use shortcuts. There's a lot of different things. In this case, I'm just going to a particular folder. I'm going to grab my PCR template here and say, okay, let's check that out. It tells me that is not checked out. Do you want to? So I'm claiming access of that now. No one else can touch it. This is mine, and this is a change request that I'm working on, and I'll go ahead and update LED lights to manufacturer. And I could go on for the through the different pieces here, filling all this out. I just want to do some sort of change in here, so I've got the information, and then I'll go through and save it, and then I'm just simply going to check it back in. So I've taken this information from the Vault, I'm working with this file, checked it out, checked it back in. I'm going to say okay and send that over. I don't need this anymore. So I'm going to shut down my Word, and I'm going to go grab Vault. So I'll pull up Vault here, and over, I've got my different information, and one of the pieces that I have in here is those Word files that I've created. So I can create that information, bring it across. Oh, I think I put it in the wrong Vault. And I can bring it across over into here. Those files can be searched on by all of the properties that we normally have within Word. We can go find those files, preview them within here. All of that is possible with working with the different tools we have available to us. So I really like how Word integrates so tightly with the Vault. Now, I'm talking about Office documents, but another really common document that we would put within here would be a PDF file, and that's absolutely fine. Again, incredibly common, and it's really simple to use that within this context. So I'm going to jump back to my PowerPoint. So PDF files, all those different types of files can be stored in there, because as we know, when we're creating documentation, there's really a lot of different types of files that end up getting created. It's not just the CAD information, it's quality documents. It could be CAM data. Even with the simple of products, if we have simple products, we end up with all these different things, tech pubs, CAM, schematics, project plans. Again, all of that could be stored in the Vault in that single location that we can use within there. So that's an easy one. The fact that the myth that those can't be used, they definitely can, and it's pretty easy to do. All right, kind of rounding the corner here and coming home. So we have the first three. It's definitely can be used for more than 2D. Small companies, there's plenty of benefit. Any file type can be stored in the Vault. And then this one's really interesting. It takes a long time to implement. It takes too long to implement, and you'll hear this at different times. If you've been in manufacturing long enough, you'll talk to different people. You say, I heard it took that company 2 years to put whatever it was, some data management tool, a lot of times it's a PLM tool that they're really talking about. And I will say that complex data management implementation, that can be lengthy. There's a lot going on. If you have multiple locations, and we have clients who have more than 20 different locations that they're sharing this information out to. If you have multiple locations, if you have 2 million files that need loaded in there, if you are a very large company and you've got 8 divisions of people to train, or maybe there's some custom programming that has to go in place so that it can interface with the point of purchase system or something else, all of those types of things do add to a implementation cycle. So as we're going through with an implementation cycle, if it's, this is where, and I mentioned smaller companies earlier, this is where they benefit a lot, because a lot of times these aren't true in those instances. We have a smaller number of people to train. We have, fewer places to support. So it's hard to compare a multi-site, custom programming, multiple divisions being trained implementation to one location, 5 users, let's put this into place. So it really, really depends. I wouldn't be shocked if there were data management implementations for very large companies that took a long, long time. Most of the time, though, that's not the case. And this information, I was looking around just to this was my gut feeling going into this. Like I said, I've been with IMAGINiT for a while and have worked with these tools for a while. So I had the feeling that this was true. But I didn't want to just say, yeah, from my memory or as near as I can tell. So I was looking for some information, and this is an article produced by Tech Clarity. And I've got the link down there, and I'd be glad to share the link with anyone. You can just freely download the PDF. But what they surveyed around 2,500 different companies, and one of the questions in the survey was how long did it take to put that data management into place. I'm going to just blow this up a little bit just so it's a little clearer. The median time to implement PDM, product data management, according to this article, is about 9 months. So that's over 2,500 companies, it was 9 months. In half of them, it was less than a year, and in a quarter of them, it was less than 3 months. Very realistically, from my history, from my past of working with these different tools, I would agree with that 3 months. And I guess it depends, part of it depends on what full implementation looks like. But I can tell you that most of the implementations that IMAGINiT is involved with fall toward that 3-month side, and that's from initially beginning to install the software through training and full production use. It's probably closer, it could be as short as 6 weeks depending on the size of the company. It ranges wildly. So it's always tough to say, but I think this gives you a good idea of some of the concepts of how long it might be to go through some of those things. Again, number of people trained, all of these things vary, and that's why it's difficult. We'll have someone say, how long is it going to take us to get up and running? And I'll say, well, then I have a lot more questions. And that's usually where it comes in. But we can usually, based off of our experience and who we've worked with, once we understand your exact situation and where that's coming from, we can give you a lot more information as to what that looks like. So the takeaway here, it takes too long to implement. Realistically, within 3 months, a lot of companies, more than a quarter, are fully utilizing the product data management tools. They're able to begin leveraging the abilities that come with those so that we can get those into place. And then I wanted to kind of wrap up this section talking about the idea where, these are cost prohibitive tools. And that kind of goes with the idea of, it takes a while. Both of these are reasons why a lot of companies haven't moved toward this. I've had companies tell me, we know we probably should, but it's going to take too long and cost too much. Well, if you're using Autodesk tools today, you probably have a data management tool available to you. Most of the many, got to be careful not to say most, but particularly on the manufacturing side, so AutoCAD, AutoCAD Electrical, Inventor Professional, these different tools, those usually include Vault Basic. You may need to take a look at your subscription, but you may have a data management tool. You have access to that already. It's just a matter of implementing it and putting it into place. Now, beyond that, there are products that do have a cost associated to them, Vault Workgroup and Vault Professional. And we've done a lot of different webcasts on what the differences are and what you gain by using one over the other. And in a nutshell, just a very quick synopsis of that. So with Vault Basic, we have a work in process, check-in, check-out, single source of information. With Vault Workgroup, we're moving to the idea of revision control and lifecycle control. And Vault Professional allows for change management and multi-site. And those are the broadest strokes of explaining those. Which one you need really depends on your situation. So while those do have a cost associated to them, there's also a cost associated in not using any data management, and it usually comes in the form of time. Time in searching for files, repairing broken links, determining which revision is correct of a particular file, accidentally overwriting data. These are the things that data management is designed to protect you from and to make sure it doesn't happen. So there is a cost associated with those things, and it's worth taking a look at. And I can tell you with IMAGINiT, we'd be more than glad to take a look at an ROI, walk you through some of that, and see if it does make, what makes sense and how that's available. So a lot of different tools that we have, a lot of different ideas that we've covered. One, yes, the idea that 2D users, there's definite benefit there. Usually when it comes to searching for files, having that title block information quickly searchable and be able to find that. And also the idea, if we're looking at Vault Workgroup or Professional, being able to have a lifecycle state or revision control on it. Smaller companies, whether or not they need to use that, if you have, once your data hits a certain level of complexity, you definitely do. It's definitely something you need to take a look at. And they can do more than just CAD files. Any type of file can be put into Vault, and the Office tools have a specific login and a specific add-in so they can put those files in and out of Vault directly, and those can be checked in and checked out. And then finally, the last two, it takes too long, it costs too much. Again, most implementations are not going to be multi-year. Matter of fact, they're usually not more than a couple of months. And in the idea of cost, not only is Vault Basic available, there's Vault Workgroup, Vault Professional, which have a cost, but there are also costs in not using data management. And that's something to weigh out. I can't guarantee in every instance, everyone varies, your mileage may vary, but it is something to consider and to take a look at. So, of course, with that's kind of the high-level ideas of the PDM solutions. I've talked about the different things they fit in, but this is really what they bring. The idea of compressing design cycle time, being able to reduce that time to market, looking at the manufacturing costs, being able to find parts efficiently, standardize parts for lower maintenance. Supporting quality initiatives is really interesting. If you do electronic revision control, we've got an audit trail that goes through that. Change management also, that change management functionality also completes the audit trail so we can understand where everything is. And in making sure the right people have the right level of access at the right time. Being able to control access to confidential or privileged information, being able to have libraries, project history, those different business assets, being able to lock those down. This is what data management brings. And there's definitely a reason, whether you're a small company, 2D user, there are definitely reasons to use that. That's kind of the high level of the things that I wanted to cover with you guys today. I appreciate your time. And Cassie, it'd be a good time to open it up to questions.